What a time to barely be alive. Welcome to the show we like to call The Sweat. She's Jessie Coffield. I'm Emerson Lotzia. We're sick. Woe is me. T's and P's are encouraged, and we sincerely hope to waste as little of your time as possible, although we just did for 10 seconds.
So thank the Lord we have a real doctor in the
baby.
house right now. It's the legendary Dr. Celine Perec of the Fantasy Doctors, and he's joined by DK Live's Reed Fowler. Jeff, going to join us later in the show.
Yes, he is. All right, well, guys, we're going to focus not on my sore throat or Jessie's fever, among other things, but the fantasy impact of key NFL injuries right now. Josh Allen is out with a UCL injury, so Derek Anderson will start at quarterback for the Bills this week. Dr. P, what exactly does this ligament do?
UCL.
It is a very critical ligament. If you look at the elbow, and this is kind of the side of your pinky, if you look at the inside of the elbow, the ulnar collateral ligament lives on the inside of those muscles and tendons right here, and it is a major stabilizing ligament for what we call valgus stress, basically the stress you put on your elbow when you throw. So it's extremely critical. It's very common in baseball, also known as Tommy John surgery when you get reconstruction. It's pretty rare to see it in a football player. Look for him to actually be 2 to 4 weeks to return to play. We're hearing it's more of a sprain than a tear. So 2 to 4 weeks, and I think he'll be good to go by the middle of November.
Yeah, well, Reed, in the meantime, Derek Anderson, I mean, really, I think Colin Kaepernick has actually started and won an NFL game more recently than Derek Anderson.
Yeah.
There's no way on God's green earth you're considering him against the Colts, right?
No. I mean, that's how bad Nathan Peterman is, that you signed this guy, just off the street a couple of days ago, and he now is your starting quarterback. So, no, you don't. You attack, obviously, the Indy defense. You start playing them, and they're going to be chalk, so there's some other places that you can go. But if you look at that entire team, right, that entire Bills team, there is no offense. If you look at Kelvin Benjamin, I think he only has 8 total catches this year. So when you look at all of these things considered, especially LaShawn McCoy, who you probably drafted in redraft leagues pretty high, probably 3rd, 4th round, he's giving you nothing. When you look at, again, all of these injuries coming through, especially at quarterback, Nathan Peterman, Josh Allen, Derek Anderson, you don't play these guys. You're not doing it, not even close. So, no way.
Yeah, I mean, Peterman did throw 2 interceptions when he came in Sunday. So too many interceptions. They're now just they're gonna take a chance on Derek Anderson, who, like you said, he's like 35. They signed him off the street.
Yeah, he's
you know,
like 70.
Jeez, Peterman, come on. All right, well, Eric Berry has yet to play, suffering a torn Achilles in the 2017 season opener. Now he's dealing with a heel injury that has complicated his recovery. Doc, the team expects Berry to play this season, but are you thinking this heel injury is actually a direct correlation to the Achilles injury from last year?
So interestingly, not a direct correlation, actually 2 different injuries. If you look at the side of your leg, your Achilles tendon goes from your heel bone up to your knee over here. The Achilles tendon right in this area here, which is where he would have torn it, got repaired. What we're dealing with now is where that tendon attaches to the heel bone right down here. He's got a little bone spur that's pushing on the tendon, causing all this inflammation and pain in the tendon. So it's a different injury, same implications in terms of playing. It takes time for this inflammation to calm down, and sometimes you do require surgery to clear this up. Now, they're trying to treat this without surgery, but it hasn't worked until now. So the longer this goes on, the more likely he needs surgery, and therefore his season would be over.
Wow, okay. Well, Reed, if Berry does come back, let's say there's a chance, obviously. Is there any hope for this Chiefs defense, or will it remain a target in fantasy all season?
I mean, there is still a chance, right? Kansas City, when you look at what they could potentially do before the trade deadline, there's some guys that have been thrown out there that could really bolster their defense. Give them a shot in the arm right away. Deion Buchanan in Arizona has been touted. Arizona has been saying, hey, this guy's on the trading block. He's one of the best best linebacker coverage guys. And then also Carl Joseph, right? There's sort of a fire sale going on in Oakland for all of these first-round defensive players or first-round offensive players. So if you want that shot in the arm, real quick, you can go and get those guys to really bolster your coverage defense. Because if you look at Kansas City, you have to go back to 2016 when their team defense was ranked top 10. They're actually 7th. And with that, after the 16-game or 17-game season, they were number 1 in turnovers with 33. They only have about 9 right now, and they're ranked right in the middle of the pack, and they're really not getting those turnovers. They can still rush the passer. Dee Ford is looking like a top or a pass rusher right now. They're getting pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. And so it's not out yet. Eric Berry, this guy's been hurt for 2 years.
Yeah.
So even if he comes back, how good will he be right away? Go out and make some acquisitions before that trade deadline hits.
All righty. Well, Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill has been ruled out again this week by head coach Adam Gase with a shoulder injury, saying Tannehill actually got worse as the week went on. He'll start once healthy. Brock Osweiler gets another go at it this week. But Dr. P, how concerning is it that Tannehill's injury, it got worse as the days flew by last week?
Well, clearly that's worrisome. It's unclear exactly the nature of the injury. There's some suggestion that he has a sprain of his shoulder, which is at the AC joint, the acromioclavicular joint, right kind of at the point of your shoulder. But there's also some suggestion we're hearing coming out of the Dolphins camp that he may actually have a partial subluxation or what we call a tear of the labrum, which is the tissue that helps to stabilize the head of the shoulder. The longer it goes on that he doesn't play, the more worried you become that he may need surgery. Now, the fact that it got worse is actually bad news because it means that the body's struggling to heal. They really need to shut him down. And even though they say he's day-to-day, he needs time to get this to heal to potentially come back this season.
All right. I mean, Reed, we talked a lot about Brocktober during the last few days. He won last Sunday. Is there anyone on the Dolphins worth using with this guy under center? I mean, we saw Albert Wilson start to emerge as a playmaker. You have any interest in him?
I mean, in the deepest of leagues and season long, maybe if you want to do a GPP, but not really, right? All of his, most, about 90% of his yards are yards after the catch, which is nice, but how many times is that going to happen? And Detroit, what you really do is you attack that run defense. Now, Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore have been giving us, fits this entire year. And Adam Gase says, hey, they're still going to split this. And we saw actually Frank Gore get 30% of the snaps and Drake get 65 or around 62% of the snaps last week. And so we're really confused on what you want to do here. You could potentially do flyers with those guys. I mean, they're both really, really cheap. I think Drake is $4,900 and Gore's 3,800, excuse me. So if you want to take flyers, Detroit is fourth best for opposing running backs. But in terms of those pass catching guys, Brock is still Brock. Chicago didn't know what to do. It was a humid day. Emerson always mentions how humid and hot it is in Florida. These guys are totally caught off guard. I don't think Chicago is going to do that again. So for me, no, there's no one that I want to play. If anything, it'd be those running backs.
It is sticky. It is moist down there.
Yeah.
I can confirm.
All right, last one for you here, Dr. P. Giants tight end Evan Ingram is hopeful to return Monday night from a sprained MCL after missing 3 games. So how limited could he be just 4 weeks or so removed from this kind of injury?
So a sprain of the MCL, which is the ligament on the inside of the knee, typically takes 2 to 4 weeks to return to play. So he's right in that sweet spot. And given that he practiced, and I'm hearing that he's actually doing well in practice, I think having the extra day and playing Monday night should be good for him, and he should be fine.
All right, well, Reed, let's say he does play. How interested are you in using him on Monday Night Football against that struggling, leaky Atlanta defense?
Yeah, you got to be really confident, right? Because if not, you're playing the third string tight end. I can't even remember his name right now in New York. I mean, because Ray Ellison is also hurt and he's week to week. And so you have to be confident in Ingram if he's going to play. Keep your finger on the pulse. But if not, pick up someone right as a precautionary ad. We talked about it in our earlier shows. But yeah, Evan Ingram is someone that I'm willing to play, especially like you said, they've given up some juicy matchups to Tampa Bay, Cincinnati. We've seen tight ends get touchdowns. And we know Eli Manning's depth of target and depth of reception or throw is pretty close to the line of scrimmage. And that's where you work with Evan Ingram, is you work in those drag routes, you work those corner routes between 7 to 10 yards, and that's a sweet spot. We saw it last year as well. Last year when those guys were hurt, the receivers, Evan Ingram was the #1 target. And in tight ends, you want the 5 to 4 reception for 40-yard game. And if you get a touchdown, that's tight end 1 upside. So I'm playing Ingram if he's good to go, and you got to lock it in.
Dr. P, I have a bonus question for you. Right before the show, my hand was on the armrest of my chair, and I pinched it between the chair and the table. My middle nail is starting to turn, it looks like a little pink and blue. How would this impact me writing scripts, and how many shows do you think that I could miss?
I think you're done for the day, maybe the season. We got to amputate, and it's an emergency.
Oh, wow. Reed just threw the flag on that one. It's an emergency.
You heard the
All
man.
right.
I'm done.
We're going to cut off Emerson's finger when we come back from this break. No, I'm just kidding. Dr. P, you're free to go. Thank you for your help. Reed, hang tight. We're going to have you back for some price check coming up. Plus, we got an 11-game slate in the NBA, so let's hear who our experts are building their lineups around after Adam Levitan answers a very interesting viewer question.
He says, you own an NFL franchise. Hashtag how rich. You have your choice of one quarterback and one offensive skill position player. Taking into account age, etc., who do you build around? So the big question is obviously which quarterback would you take? You'd be insane not to take a quarterback first in a draft like this, as Morty on Tilt mentioned. And I actually thought before Carson Wentz's ACL tear last year, he was the right answer to this question. But now with Wentz off the injury, I actually think I have to say Patrick Mahomes. And I know people are going to say, oh, a small sample size, and obviously the weaponry is elite, and the line is way better in Kansas City, and that's a big reason why Mahomes looks so much better than Carson Wentz right now. Maybe. But you can just see that Patrick Mahomes has been like special every time he's taken the field, going back to college, preseason, last year, and he's 23 years old, whereas Aaron Rodgers is 34 and Carson Wentz is almost 26 already. Very good chance Mahomes will be significantly better than he is right now by the time he's 26, and then he has another 6 to 8 years of his prime. So I'll say Mahomes for my quarterback. As for the second part of the question, I actually wouldn't take a skill position player next. I think you can make an argument from a talent perspective. Somebody like Odell Beckham would be the most talented guy that is young at the wide receiver position. Obviously wouldn't take a running back or a tight end. It would be a wide receiver, but I don't think Odell would be a guy I'd want to build through if I owned the team whatsoever. I would actually take a cornerback. Like if I got to have my pick of my first two positions, first I would take a quarterback, and then I would take a cornerback, like Jalen Ramsey or something like that. Just insanely valuable in today's NFL to discourage teams from passing, and I think having elite cornerbacks can do that. And if you don't discourage them from passing, well, you better be able to cover, because that's the only way to stop this passing barrage going on in the NFL.
I can't wait to call in sick tomorrow. I have a legit doctor's note now from Dr. P.
Because we just cut your finger off.
It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. All right, if you were a fan of the NBA's opening night delivering two games to the people, then boy, oh boy, are you in for a treat this evening. An 11-game slate is ahead, and you're absolutely welcome.
And joining us right now is DK Live's Julian Edlow and Karin Phillips of the New York Daily News talking NBA building blocks. Guys, you're building lineups around tonight. So we're going to start with you, Karin. At guard, either shooting guard or point guard, who is your guy?
I'm going for a guy who I think is going to have a really big season, and that's Victor Oladipo. If you remember at the end of last year when they got bounced in the playoffs, I think like 2 hours after the game, he was posting on social media that he was back in the gym with his trainer. And that's something in my gut against that Memphis Grizzlies team and defense that we have a lot of question marks outside of Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, I should say. I think he's going to get buckets tonight. And he's going to have to fill a lot of different voids for that team. So I'm going with Vic.
Yeah, the Grizzlies ranked just 25th against shooting guards last season. So great matchup right there. Julian, who are you going with?
Yeah, I like Oladipo a lot, but I'm going to save you $600 and go down to $7,400 for Devin Booker. You can slot him in at point guard or shooting guard. This is a guy that when he got in his groove last year, he was running you $8,500, $9,000. Maybe some people sleep on him a little bit coming off of that hand surgery that he had, but by all accounts, he is ready to go. And his salary reflects that he, was a little bit questionable for opening night at $7,400, but I think he's one of the better values on this slate going up against a bad Mavericks team, so it should be a close game. I really like Devin Booker on this slate.
Yeah, averaging 39.5 fantasy points per game last season.
All right, well, Jules, at forward, smaller power, who's your building block?
I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler here, and this is not a guy that I thought we would be playing too much as of recent, but $6,700, are you kidding me? Like, Jimmy Butler was well over $8,000 last year, $8,500 a lot of the time. this salary is ridiculous for him, even if he doesn't play his usual 40 minutes. What's Tibbs going to play him, 35? If he plays anything like this legendary practice that we heard about him running last week or whenever that was, if he plays like that tonight against the Spurs, he should be in a great spot to succeed. But it's mainly just about that salary at $6,700 for Jimmy Butler. My eyes popped out when I saw that.
Yeah, he could return mad value on that, assuming that, he's not on that minutes restriction you mentioned he could possibly be on. Karn, who are you going with, the forward position?
Wait. Can we go back? Because
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
always told if was a fifth, we'll all be drunk. And the if is Jimmy Butler. Is he even going to play tonight? Like, is he going to show up?
Play.
Is he going to fight somebody? Is he going to cut somebody out?
Tom Thibodeau is going to fight Jimmy Butler to stay in Minnesota so that he can bench him on opening night? That's going to make him stay?
But you actually believe that after what we learned last week, that there's a possibility that he might not show up? That's my question.
Ooh.
So, Karn, he's there. He's 6,700. I don't think there are many signs out there that point to him not playing. Why wouldn't you?
Did you guys just miss last week? Like, the guy showed up to practice late, balled out, and then walked out. I'm not spending any money on a guy that's unpredictable, which is why I'm going with Giannis. I know what I'm getting every night with him.
Oh, well,
Is that
true.
it? You got anything else you want to back up your pick with?
Giannis.
Just that.
52 fantasy points per game last season. $10,900 though is going to cost
Is
you.
expensive.
Karn.
Is this expensive?
Hey. You want the lap of luxury, got to pay for it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's so true.
All right,
my
finally
wife lives by that
to
motto.
the big boys. Who you like at center, Karn?
I'm going with Enes Kanter. I actually wrote a story about Trae Young and the Hawks and their season opener in Madison Square tonight. And being at practice and seeing who he's going to be lined up against Alex Len, who's kind of like a stretch five. He's not known as a scorer or rebounder that much on the inside. I expect Kanter to be revved up for the season opener. We know he's an emotional guy. And you can see that guy getting 22 and 15 just off putbacks and dump-offs. So I'm rolling with Kanter.
$7,200. Julian, what about you? Who's your guy at center?
I'm going with Marc Gasol, another guy whose salary is just way too underpriced on opening night and is going to be climbing. He's $6,600. This is a guy that easily, when he was playing well last season, could cost you $8,500 in salary. He's fully healthy, and I think he's priced as if he's coming back from injury, whereas the Grizzlies were kind of just tanking more and leaving Gasol out of the lineup. So I think he's in just fine shape, and he's going up against the Indiana Pacers. He averaged 58.5 DraftKings points against this team in 2 games last season, including a 70-burger. So I think way too underpriced on Marc Gasol here.
Yeah, last time he was in this matchup, he was $8,300. So saving a lot of money there.
Absolutely cream these teams.
Yeah.
All right, dudes.
Isn't Marc Gasol like 40 by now?
At least. But he's still productive, and that's Julian's pick at center tonight. So if you have any beef with it, now is your time to speak up.
Take it to the Twitter streets.
All right, boys. We'll have you back momentarily for a little segment named after Julian that I hear has its own animated open now. I'll believe it when I see it.
But first, we've got some price check to play with the NFL guys right after this.
What's going on? I'm Brendan Glasheen with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. These postseason baseball showdown contests are getting fun, huh? What's that? You haven't got involved yet? Well, no worries. Let's start tonight and win you some cash. Red Sox Astros Game 4 in Houston, a BVP preview for you. Stros right-hander Charlie Morton, he's going to make his 2018 postseason debut. Hasn't pitched in a game since September 30th. Keep that in mind. Terrific regular season for Morton, averaging 20.5 DraftKings points per outing over 30 starts. Morton struggled a tad against Boston, though, this year, owning a 6.97 ERA in 2 starts against the Red Sox. Xander Bogaerts, who was $9,000 for this contest, he hits Morton pretty well. 7 for 14 lifetime, including 2 doubles, 2 dingers, and only 2 strikeouts. So he's put the ball in play against Morton. And just overall, Bogaerts has killed the Astros, averaging 10.4 fantasy points per. That's a 10-game sample size. Plus, low-key, the Red Sox shortstop, he's hit safely in every playoff game so far. In summary, play red-hot Xander Bogaerts tonight, and good luck.
All right, welcome back to the Sweat, everyone, where we are sweating Week 7 in the NFL. So let's say hello to DK Live's Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich. He's finally here. And Phantom Sports is Adam Mancuda. Adam, by the way, the host of the All Out Blitz, which can be found on Phantom Sports on NFL Sundays.
Guys, I think we can all agree one of the worst feelings is when you pay up to roster a player and then they don't get you the fantasy points you expected.
Yeah, the people at home just absolutely hate that. So we're going to play NFL Price Check and ask you to tell us if the following players will return value on their salary this week. So don't mess this up for the people at home, Reed.
Yeah, we're starting with QB Drew Brees. His salary dropped $800 to $5,700. Jeff, do you like that price against a Ravens DST who just had 11 sacks against the Titans?
Ooh.
I really don't, and I don't know if it has so much to do with the Ravens D line. I mean, I think the Saints have a good enough offensive line. They're like 10th in adjusted sack rate that it's not going to be as big an issue as we saw last week. But it's just this history with Mark Ingram and Drew Brees' passing output. I mean, he threw for 3 touchdowns once last year, and I know everyone's going to say he did it last week with Mark Ingram in the lineup. Well, it was kind of a special occasion, and I mean, I just don't see it happening. And then you look at how well the Ravens have limited the quarterback position just from a pure fantasy perspective, and I just have no desire to pay up for Drew Brees here. I'd rather take this as a wait and see week on Drew Brees. If he starts to continue along with what he did last week, then fine, I'll get on him next week, but no interest here.
I mean, Reed, his price has dropped $800.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing to bear really is a jammed fingernail for talking about, real things to consider here.
Agreed upon. I agree with you on that. I'll chase that.
Confirmed, yeah. But I think I agree with Jeff here. And when you look at the splits for both, right, for Drew Brees when he's outdoors as opposed to on the turf or indoors, it's night and day. Also, when you look at Baltimore's home and away defensive splits, they're so much better at home, although they did bolster that 11-sack game. But you also have to recognize that the Saints are the best team coming off a bye in the NFL in terms of a 7-2 record. So all of those considered, you would think, yeah, they're going to win the game. The way you win the game potentially is a slogfest with the Ravens. You're not going to throw necessarily against them. They got their cornerbacks back. Eric Weddle's playing better. That entire defense is playing better. Their D-line is playing better. Drew Brees, right now, the makeup of this game is a lot of Kamara and Mark Ingram. And because of that, at 50, especially with Trubisky at 5,600, I'm going to stay away from this 5,700. Even though Drew Brees is at that price, I'm going to stay away as well.
Wow, staying away. Adam, do you agree with these guys? You just aren't willing to pay up for Brees.
Yeah, I completely agree, and there's a few reasons why. First of all, his career record against the Ravens, 0-4, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in those games. So to me, that's the side number one that I wouldn't want to play him. His completion percentage on the road this season, 13% lower on the road than at home. The touchdowns, 8 at home, 3 on the road. All these things tied in there, as well as the fact that Trubisky's going against that Patriots defense, which can play really well in the secondary. Baker Mayfield going against that Tampa defense, right in the same price range. To me, there's just safer options there than Brees this week, who obviously we all love, and he set the NFL record last week for most yards. But to me, there's just safer options this week. So I'm going to stay away from Brees, who has never won against Baltimore in his career.
All right, well, Zeke Elliott is up more than $1,000 after putting up nearly 22 fantasy points against the Jags. Just had his first rushing touchdown in 4 weeks. Reed, is 8,100 top 5 running back here on the main slate at the Redskins too steep for Zeke?
I don't think it is. And the reason why I say that, yes, when you see an AK price of running back above that, you do have to pay up. And we've seen Melvin Gordon, we've seen Kamara, we've seen all these guys up there. But you look at Washington, they're 30th in run defense DVOA. And the Cowboys have no one else to give the ball to. We've seen in the past games now, they're feeding Zeke, and we're seeing Zeke now get career highs in the passing game. So when you look at where you want to pivot, yes, Gurley and Kamara are up there, but there are some questions about Kamara. So are you paying the second highest for him? And Gurley at 9,800, like Jeff mentioned earlier this week, could be highly owned. So when you look at Zeke at 8,100, going against a Washington defense, again, that is giving up points and is struggling against the run, I do like this price. It's a prime leverage spot for him. So, yeah, I'd pay up for him.
So you're thinking some possible low ownership with this guy?
I mean, Zeke will still be highly owned, I think. But when you look at just that matchup and where other guys potentially would go, I think he's in consideration for, he's 15 to 20% for a guy like Zeke, which is not too bad, especially when you're getting 20 to 22 attempts per game and you're getting an uptick in targets.
All right, good stuff. So that said, Adam, is he worth the price tag, $8,100? You dropping that on him? Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been against Elliott a lot this season simply because of the fact that the Cowboys don't have any other weapons around him. But I've given up that at this point. The guy's proven week in and week out that he's going to put up numbers regardless of how bad or well Dak Prescott plays. And look at his numbers career against the Redskins. In those games, he's 3-0. He's rushed for over 110 yards per game and 5 touchdowns with a 4.6 yards per carry. So to me, he's always been successful against the Redskins. He's proven he could get the ball in the end zone in this matchup. And again, considering some of the other matchups around the league, I'm going to run with Elliott this week. It seems like the Cowboys are starting to hit a little bit of a groove with Prescott and Cole Beasley. So if that opens things up, more opportunity for Elliott on the ground and through the air with some targets.
Jeff, on the road, a division game, what concerns do you have dropping $8,100 on Zeke Elliott?
Well, I mean, look, we know what we're going to get from Zeke Elliott.
Okay.
He's going to be out there almost every snap from Dallas. So 8,100 this week, it seems about right to me, to be honest. I mean, it's a bit of a weird week because we have so many main backs that aren't on the main slate. Melvin Gordon, a couple guys I can't remember now, but you get my point, right? That Zeke doesn't look like more of a value than he is just because we're without some of the bigger names, right?
Yeah,
So,
Marshawn Lynch, another guy.
wasn't the name I was looking for, but
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
I mean,
Barkley. There you go. There's another one. But
Yeah.
Joe Mixon. Anyways,
Smith.
I've completely lost my train of thought. But the matchup, the one thing that concerns me here is the matchup. The Redskins defense has been pretty good at limiting like some pretty good running backs. I mean, they limited David Johnson. I know they gave up 2 touchdowns to Mark Ingram, but there are no big runs there. So it's not the greatest matchup in the world. And I feel like on a regular week with all those big names, you might not take Zeke. But as Adam pointed out, he's overcome this matchup before. You know he's going to get the workhorse role. So 8,100 seems about right. And I don't really have a problem using him this week either.
Hey, man, your boy Tevin Coleman's going to be playing. I mean, that's on Monday night.
Yeah.
You know?
All right,
Get excited.
guys, speaking of high ownership, as Reed was talking about earlier, Adam Thielen has been a fantasy points machine. He's only up $100, but his salary is now at $8,600. Adam, is no price too high for the Vikings wide receiver at this point?
You know, I love all things Adam, so I got to roll with my boy Thielen.
Oh, yeah.
Here. Absolutely. The guy hasn't scored under 20 points since week 1. So for me, I'm going to roll with Thielen and see what he does here against the Jets. The Jets, remember, they gave up a bunch of points to a guy named Chester Rogers last week. I mean, again, they even let Demaryius Thomas find the end zone 2 weeks ago. So for me, Thielen, they're going to be throwing the ball all over the yard. I don't think Latavius Murray is going to get it going on the ground against that Jets defense. I doubt we see Dalvin Cook this week. So for me, where's Kirk Cousins going to go? He's going to go to Diggs and Thielen. And for me, Thielen's going to have a huge day again. The guy's proven week in and week out that he's matchup proof at this point for me.
Yeah, on average, that Jets defense surrendering 292 receiving yards per game. That certainly is a lot. Reed, what do you think? Are you just going to eat the chalk on this one and get on board with Adam Thielen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Adam Thielen, I would pay more for this guy. I mean, this guy, like we've talked about week over week, has hit 100 yards each time he's been out. He's outperformed his projections by at least 12 points on average. What's also good, too, is Buster Screen, you play the receiver, right? I mean, his backup, Buster Screen's backup, you play the receiver. You're playing Adam Thielen no matter what. This guy is an absolute powerhouse. He's seeing 30% target share as well, which is number 1 throughout the entire season. So this guy's getting upwards of 11 to 12 targets per game. So his floor is absolutely outstanding. $8,600. I'd pay $9,000 for this guy. He's amazing.
Wow, Jeff, would you also pay $9,000?
Well, how disrespectful by the DraftKings salary makers this week. Antonio Brown was $9,200 last week, and Adam Thielen gets a $100 bump. He should be at least $9,200. He's the best fantasy wide receiver in football by a wide margin right now. It's kind of ridiculous that he's still at 86. So, and I haven't even talked about the matchup, which is absolutely fantastic this week. By the way, Buster Screen's backup is Perry Nickerson. So there you go. Adam Thielen versus Perry Nickerson. You make your choice this week, people. I'll be taking Adam Thielen.
Hey, Jeff, someone on YouTube wants to know, stacking Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs against the Jets' young secondary. I mean, is that the way to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the one thing that could hold Adam Thielen back from having like just an average day is Steph Diggs going off, right? So I don't mind getting exposure to Steph Diggs and GPPs because he's in just as good a matchup. And obviously the upside is there. He might get a few less targets, but he's capable of busting a long play or two. So yeah, it's definitely a stack and play this week.
All right then, Jeffrey. Zach Ertz is the most expensive tight end on the main slate, $7,100. That's up $3 from last week. Is that too high as the Eagles host the Panthers in Week 7?
I mean, I don't have a problem with Zach Ertz as the most expensive tight end on this slate. I think it kind of makes sense, but just remember, I mean, the Eagles are a bit of a game flow team in terms of targeting. Zach Ertz, when they get ahead, he just doesn't see those 12, 14 targets consistently. They spread it out a little bit more. They run the ball more. So I don't like this price at all. I mean, I think if he was 6,500, 6,100, I could get behind him as like a GPP play or a stacking play, but I don't know, 7,100 for Zach Ertz. There's just too many other ways that the Eagles can go right now with like a healthy Alshon Jeffrey and Carson Wentz running it in or something. So I don't like this price at all. I haven't talked about the matchup, which isn't good.
Yeah, Adam, too high of a price here. Is this a week you maybe have to pay up for a tight end? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it goes one of two ways. One, if you're able to save the money and pay up for Ertz, you do that. I mean, I think, if you go with a Baker Mayfield type at quarterback where you might be able to save a little bit of money, maybe you go that route. But if you're going to pay up at quarterback, go the reverse and get David Njoku, who's got 30 targets over his last 3 games. So to me, you got to play it one way or the other, depending on where you go with quarterback. I have no problem paying up for Ertz. He's clearly the best tight end in the league right now in terms of production week over week because Gronk's play has been down and Kelsey's not on this slate. So for me, that's the strategy I would use.
Yeah, he's only scoring the single digits in one game this season, averaging 19 fantasy points per game here, Reed. Sounds like he'd be kind of worth the price tag, but Jeff says he doesn't even like his matchup.
Yeah, when you look at his past matchups, too, he hasn't done well. I think he's only seen or averaged around 5 targets, a couple receptions, 30 yards, so not good against Carolina. But like we talked about earlier in this segment, their running backs, there are none on the main slate. So I want to pay up for Gurley. I want to pay up for Zeke, Kamara, these guys, because there are no running backs on this main slate. So if that's the case, I'm paying down. And Adam hit it the nail on the head. David Njoku at $4,200, $4,300 is a perfect spot to pivot if you want to save, right? There are receivers that are of value. You don't have to pay 14% of your salary for Ertz. I get it. He's seeing double-digit targets. He's seeing a ton of targets in that offense. But there are so many other ways that the Eagles can potentially beat Carolina. It's not a good matchup against tight ends. Carolina does better against tight ends. Thomas Davis is back. These guys are rolling a little bit in terms of their defense. And so I'm not paying $7,100 for tight end. I'd rather go down at Njoku.
All right, thanks, guys. Hopefully your advice helped the people at home figure out who to pay up for and who is not going to be worth it. Now, we got our baseball guys joining us to talk about Game 4 of the ALCS right after we hear from Pat Mayo.
Running backs to start off with. We go to the very top of the list. I mean, the gods did take the Kansas City-Cincinnati game away from us, but now we get Todd Gurley back on the slate. He's less than last week. That's nice. He's only $9,800. Kamara is $8,500. Elliott is $81. Then you got McCaffrey, James White at $6,900, TJ Yeldon at $64, Leonard Fournette at $6,000, and that's it for your above $6,000 running backs. When people construct lineups this week, do you think this is one of these weeks where you're trying to jam in 2 of the very top-end guys, and do you think that that's going to be necessary?
Well, I'm not sure how possible it is, quite honestly, Pat. I mean, you've got Gurley there at $9,800, which is going to be expensive. And a lot of the values that we would normally want to pair with him might not be on this slate, right? So there's no Ito Smith on this slate. You might have to look at one of the Eagles running backs to try to get some of these top tier guys in. So I would not be surprised. It's not a strategy that I'm going to take, but I would not be surprised if you were trying to jam in, James White and TJ Yeldon, 2 of those guys down at the bottom of your tier that you kind of discussed. I just don't know how likely it's going to be to get 2 guys anywhere in, Gurley and another one of those top guys. I think it's going to be pretty difficult.
So if you had to start with, let's say, one of the top running backs, is paying up for Gurley the way to go, or do you take the discount and take the $8,100 for Zeke Elliott?
Yeah, so not a knock on Gurley, obviously, because there's really literally nothing to knock about him. But the savings on Zeke is really, really good. Averaging 27 touches in the last 3 weeks. It's the most in the NFL. He's really getting all the work inside the red zone. Unfortunately, his team just doesn't get to the red zone as often as we'd like. But the only thing he's really lacking is the touchdowns. So to take the discount on what we talk about constantly, which is volume and opportunity, Zeke checks off both of those boxes. I'm absolutely willing to start my lineups there. He's probably my favorite running back here.
The discount on the price is the big thing for me, but Kamara's right there at $8,500. Ingram is at $5,900. Do you think that more people will own Ingram or own Kamara?
I think Moore will own Ingram. Now, this is a kind of not like a mob mindset, but someone like Alvin Kamara who burns you last week. The situation has completely changed in New England. People don't know what to expect. Kamara is going to have another big game, and a lot of people are going to miss out on it. I'm not sure that that's incorrect, but that's what's going to happen, right? He's got a really bad matchup on paper with Baltimore this week, and you're just so much concern about Kamara, but you want access to that Saints offense, so it's going to be a lot easier for all these owners to go out and click Mark Ingram's name coming off of the 2-touchdown game, as opposed to just hoping and buying low on Kamara and hoping he bounce back.
Is it worth burning a few lineups in tournaments on Kamara just because that ownership is going to be so low?
Yes. So if you're playing 20 lineups, I'm not good with the ownership. I leave that to the experts, but I assume only a handful of lineups to get overweight on Kamara. And I would not be surprised if we woke up on Monday and he's your highest scoring running back on the slate, right? If Sean Payton is factual and saying, hey, we're going to try to get a better split. We've seen Kamara only needs 16, 18 touches to score 40 DraftKings points. So if you're a glutton for punishment, I'd say, go out and grab Kamara. I think he's one of the more volatile options on the slate. But when you say, is he worth it? Yeah, like you could wake up with 40 points on Monday.
All right, we're going showdown mode in baseball tonight. It's game 4 of the ALCS between the Red Sox and Astros, and we're here for all of it. And so is this guy.
Hello, Action Matt LaMarca of the Action Network, which we will not ask you where we can find it because that is definitely too difficult. So all of you at home, grab it right now on iTunes and Android right now.
All right, dude, it's Rick Porcello, Charlie Morton as the starters tonight. Morton had a great season, hasn't appeared in a game, though, since September 30th, I believe, has thrown just 15 innings since September 1st. Who do you like more between these two?
I'll side with Morton here, but I think both are honestly in play in the showdown format. I'm a little bit surprised that the Astros didn't go with Morton as their third starter in the postseason and chose to go with Dallas Keuchel instead, because he put together a really nice regular season, 3.13 ERA, 10.83 K per 9. Those are both career highs for him. So he was a really good pitcher during the regular season. This is obviously a tough matchup against the Red Sox, who are the best team in the league against right-handed pitchers, but Vegas is still giving him the edge here. The Red Sox have the lower implied team total, and Morton is a solid minus 152 moneyline favorite. So I think he is the pitcher if you can only pick one, but Porcello has some viability too. The Astros were pretty mediocre against right-handers. They just ranked 12th in terms of WOBA this season against righties. So I think you can play both. I think you can play both in the same lineup. Both guys are pretty affordable, so you have a lot of different options.
All
right. Well, who's the top bat that you like for this evening?
I'm going to go with Mookie Betts. I mean, it's going to be chalky. He's the most expensive batter on the slate, but the guy is just a fantastic baseball player. He's got the top projections in our MLB models today, both median projection and ceiling projection. So if you want a guy who, is going to bat leadoff, he's pretty safe for you, but obviously has the potential to hit a home run, steal a base. I think Betts is the overall top play here on the slate.
How much are you considering riding the hot hand here of Jackie Bradley Jr.? Had the grand slam last night, and the dude was batting 161 at one point during the regular season, but has turned this series thanks to a couple clutch bases-clearing swings.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. Has always had some underrated power against right-handed pitchers. He's definitely not a guy who's known for what he does with the bat. He's more of a glove man, but he has an isolated power of nearly 200 against right-handed pitchers, so he can do a little bit of damage when he actually does make contact. The problem is that doesn't happen nearly enough. So given that neither starting pitcher is really going to cost you a ton of money here, I don't see a tremendous need to go down to Jackie Bradley Jr. and save the money with him. He's going to be batting 9th, which is just obviously not a great spot to target hitters. It's going to make it tough for him to get, RBI chances playing at the bottom of the order. He's always a threat to hit a home run, as he showed last night, but it just doesn't happen enough for me to consider him tonight.
Do you know anything about the matchup history between him and Morton?
I don't really believe in pitcher versus batter stats, so I didn't look at it.
I was trying to bring the Steve out of you there.
Okay.
That's all.
No. Matt, which relievers, in your opinion, could play a role in tonight's contest?
Yeah, I mean, they're all in play. If you've listened to me, you know that I love targeting relievers in this format. I think you can target, multiple guys and have a pretty optimal lineup that way. I'm going to go right back to Roberto Osuna. I know he was awful yesterday, but he's still a really good relief pitcher. Vegas has the Astros favored, so I think he's the most likely closer to get a save opportunity. Ryan Presley has also pitched really well out of the Astros bullpen as a setup guy, and he's priced at basically the minimum, if not the minimum. So I think he's a really nice way to save some salary. And then on the Red Sox side, obviously you have Craig Kimbrell, who is one of the best relievers in the game, and then Matt Barnes has been a really good setup guy too. So I think you can play a couple of those guys, and then that'll allow you to play basically whatever else you want. You can go with both pitchers. You can load up on the big bats. You have a lot of different ways you can go.
All right, Action Matt, who is not a BVP guy, we appreciate you. We appreciate you joining us. An NBA edition of Hidden Jewels is next.
I'm Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Jimmy Butler took to Instagram this morning to confirm he is playing in the Timberwolves opener at the Spurs. Let's have a look. The so-called drama, Butler said on Insta, "I'll take it for this moment ahead," whatever that means. Butler goes on to challenge the newest member of the Spurs, DeMar DeRozan. Okay, so how in the world do we approach this contest tonight? It's a captain contest on DraftKings. Do we fade Butler because he really doesn't want to be with the Wolves? Or, yeah, let's pay up since he's in line to absolutely go off? Well, I'm going to side with the latter. Jimmy was not messing around when he first reported to practice. He's barking at management. He's barking at Tom Thibodeau. He's barking at his teammates. Pretty gutsy to talk all that smack and then not perform at a high level. I can't imagine him not scoring north of 20, 25 points. I'm talking on the court when he's shooting the ball. I don't know about the DraftKings points, but if he goes 20 for 25, it's pretty good. When they roll the balls out on the court, he's going to be ready to go. Butler, 10,600 as a flex play, 15,900 in your captain slot, and to avoid the so-called drama, just play him.
Welcome back to the Sweat. We are about to dive into some NBA talk, and we have absolutely huge news. I can only hope Steve Buchanan is watching somewhere out there in the universe. Our next segment has its own animation now.
Wow.
It's time for Hidden Jewels with Julian Edlow. Roll the open.
Wow. Whoa.
Oh, the wink.
Wow, the wink.
So much
wow.
swagger.
Karin, what do you think?
You're next, bud.
I need a moment. Just give me.
Give him a minute.
Let's clap it up for Jewel.
I think Steve looks in much better shape in his graphic.
Absolutely, he does.
I have a big problem with that.
Wait, why? It's just your head.
I mean,
it was a little pudgy.
Can you tell that from a head? Well, anyway, whatever, guys. We're not talking about
the graphics at 10
chiseled
pounds.
muscles like Buchanan.
Okay,
anyway,
we'll chisel your jawline a little bit. We'll talk to them about
Did
that.
y'all steal the graphics from Bejeweled? Like
yeah,
the old games you play on your
that
phone?
is exactly what it looks like,
That
Karin.
that is what our boy Billy does in the back. He's super creative, kind of,
cool. Be quiet. So we introduced Julian already, but now Karin of the New York Daily News. So the way this segment works, Karin, if you didn't know, is Julian is going to give us his, you want to stand up, buddy? Okay. Is going to give us his best value plays of the night. Then we're going to let you chime in and tell him how wrong he is. So Julian, please hit us with that first value play.
The first value play here is going to be Jetty Osman for the Cleveland Cavaliers. No LeBron James at small forward anymore, and J.R. Smith and Larry Nance Jr. are both out. So when Osman was playing, he's going to start at small forward. He's probably going to get about 30 minutes, judging by the preseason rotations, and he runs you $4,200. So when he was playing these kind of minutes last year, it was very scattered because he wasn't in the rotation that much, but he often returned well more than value, sometimes scoring roughly 30 DraftKings points in 30 minutes. So we know that he can, if he gives you a DraftKings point per minute and he's playing 30 minutes, he can go 6-7 times value on this slate, even if it's against the Raptors.
Karin, 4,200 against Toronto. No LeBron James. Do you agree that he could have a big night here?
I like it in theory, but I don't like it in actuality. Because if I remember, like, Rodney Hood's still on the roster, and they're probably going to play him a lot at the 3 and still keep J.R. Smith on the 4 for some reason, even after what happened in the finals.
Well, J.R. Smith is out.
Oh, J.R.'s out. Oh, breaking news we got here.
You got to listen to the segment.
I didn't get that alert on my iPhone today. Excuse me. But still, it's listen, Jetty, is there a way to go like half right,
half in, half out? You're like
sure.
50-50?
Why not, dude? Yeah. We'll allow it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got hit with a fail.
Oh.
We don't have control of that part of the graphic, just so you know.
No.
No, but like, because I like it and it makes sense from like an economical standpoint. I just don't have any personal faith in Seti, Jetty, whatever his name is, because I don't know how to pronounce it and no one else does.
Yeah,
they say it
we don't
different every
either.
game I watch.
It's
That's
Seti
true.
Osmani.
That's probably not how it is. All right, Julian.
Getty.
So we gotta sort of okay, kind of good, kind of bad on your first jewel. What about your second?
Wow.
Well, considering the argument was that J.R. Smith would be getting minutes and he's out, then I think that should be a full acceptance of that pick.
Okay,
But
okay.
now we are on to Jeremy Lin here of the Atlanta Hawks. He's going to be coming off the bench playing in that six-man role. Trae Young, obviously the starting point guard, but this is a guy that cost $6,300 on opening night last year, and now he's going to run you $4,000. So you're getting a huge discount. He's going to get some good run off the bench, and I kind of like that that's where he is because he'll be getting more usage playing minutes when Trae Young is off the floor. He'll probably get some two-guard alongside Trae Young as well. And then we have a little narrative street at the end. He's going up against the Knicks, a terrible team, but at MSG, where Lin's sanity was born, he'll have a little extra motivation to put on a show there. So I just think it's way too cheap for Jeremy Lin in this spot.
Karan, he was averaging 23 fantasy points per game last year. Do you like Lin in the spot?
Don't, because I have some inside information.
Oh, please. Do we have a breaking news stinger, guys, that we can roll for this?
It's not breaking news. Not breaking news if you read my story from the other day.
Yeah, we certainly did.
I was at Hawks practice on Monday, and I did the story on Trae Young making his, well-awaited debut in Madison Square Garden, an arena he's never played for inside, and that's actually crazy. But I also talked to Jeremy Lin to get the, hey, you've been here before. You've been the man at MSG. What have you, told Trae Young to get him ready? And he told me something in that interview that he has some real issues with going back for a couple of years playing at MSG for the way that whole insanity thing ended, and he's just gotten back over that and fell for the love of the game. So this flashback that we think Jeremy Lin may have going back to MSG so that he can go wild and get buckets, I don't think it's coming because that guy, from talking to him face-to-face, man-to-man, I don't think he really has a lot of love for NYC or MSG anymore. And watching them practice, Trae Young and Kent Bazemore are going to get almost all of the minutes in that backcourt.
Well, that's some information Julian cannot bring to the table.
Yeah,
and
he's
we
gonna.
appreciate you for that.
So he's
Karan.
just gonna basically freak out and not do so well. Okay.
All right, so ignore that.
Listen, I'm not saying he won't, but he told me that it's taking him some time to get over that whole MSG insanity stuff.
So could be a little bit of a head case tonight. We appreciate that insider
Aren't we
information.
all
All
a
right,
little bit?
Julian, your third and final jewel, please.
Last one, we're going to dig a little bit deeper here for Frank Mason at $3,700. The only two guys we are sure are starting for the Sacramento Kings are De'Aaron Fox and Willie Cauley-Stein. But with Bogdan Bogdanovic out, we're getting some rumblings that Frank Mason, even though he's kind of a point guard, might get that starting shooting guard role. Even though it's a bad matchup against the Jazz, if he's a starter, he's going to play minutes whether this is a close game, and he's also the kind of guy that can play minutes if this game winds up being a blowout for Utah. At $3,700, if we're looking for 5 times value, we don't even need 20 DraftKings points here. And if you look back at Frank Mason's game logs at the end of last season, he was playing between 20 to 28 minutes very often and recording 20 DraftKings points. So if whether or not he gets this starting role, I'm not really concerned. If he does start, it gives him a little extra boost. But I just think he's kind of matchup proof, even though it's against Utah, because those minutes are going to be there regardless of game script.
Karan, do you agree? Do you think the minutes are going to be good even though it is Utah?
No, because I have even more insider.
Oh,
hit us with it.
Did a podcast with the great Davian Barling who does radio out in Sacramento. And I talked to my man Jason Jones from The Athletic, who covers the Kings last week. Because as a Duke fan, I've been yelling at them about why this coaching staff and this organization out in Sacramento doesn't just let all these young guys that they have on the roster play like Harry Giles and Marvin Bagley, who might not both start tonight, which is a total head case. And we also know that Fox and Willie Cauley-Stein are probably the only 2 starters we know, but we're all thinking that it's probably going to be Buddy Hield at the 2. And with Frank Mason, he might get squeezed out on minutes tonight. But the crazy thing is that we don't know what Sacramento's going to do at all, which is the crazy part. But here's one thing we do know. Frank Mason played a lot of minutes in Summer League and took a lot of shots and was on the floor a lot. If you're playing a lot in Summer League, that means you're not going to play a lot in the regular season unless you're a top drafted rookie.
Okay.
Wow. Julian, do you have anything you'd like to add? Any, behind the scenes conversations
I heard
with anybody?
nothing
Any
in that
interviews?
inside information as to why Frank Mason can't have a good night, but
Because Frank Mason isn't going to play.
Buddy Hield starting last season, and night after night, Frank Mason was in that spot. Why are the Kings going to smarten up this season? They definitely should be starting Buddy Hield. I would start Buddy Hield, but they're the Kings. They're going to start Frank Mason.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and
Julian's
see.
a little worked up. We'll see
Yeah.
if this Jewel actually is worth anything after tonight. Thank you,
My night
guys.
rides on Frank Mason, I guess now.
Well, before we let you guys boogie, tell us who you got for your lock of the night, please. Your slate-approved pick, Karin.
Sticking with Enes Kanter. I'm expecting huge points and huge rebounds out of him tonight.
Go ahead, Jules.
My slate-approved pick is Jimmy Butler. I went on Twitter. I saw the videos of him walking into the stadium in his jean jacket. I saw the Instagram that he wants to kick DeMar DeRozan's ass, and he's way too underpriced.
All
Jimmy
right.
Butler!
Well, there you go, Karin.
Jimmy
It looks like
showed
he's going to
up.
play, Karin.
Woo! Jimmy
Looks like
showed
he's
up.
gonna play.
He showed up.
Let's go.
I'm just saying that's mad value for a dude with that kind of skill.
Yeah.
And at that price
So
range.
quick, everybody,
I
get to your lineups and
I hope Jimmy goes for like 80 tonight.
yeah, that would be
showed up.
sweet. That
Hey,
would be
that's
sweet.
that's just going to make Julian look even better.
Really good. All right, crew, thank you. Now, to all of you intently watching on the internet, don't go anywhere. We've still got to play over-under with our football panel.
All right, time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Brendan Glass-Sheen. Another flash has burst in Buffalo when it comes to the starting quarterback situation. Wow. Bills head coach Sean McDermott said late Wednesday morning, Derek Anderson is the team's starting QB this week at the Colts. My God, this will be their third different signal starting caller, whatever you want to call it, of the season, and we're only in week 7. Yep, it sounds like the Bills. Rookie Josh Allen is week to week with an elbow sprain. Nathan Peterman, he remains in a relief role, but now it's for Anderson, and the 35-year-old career backup technically hasn't started an NFL game since December 4th, 2016 versus Seattle, but wait, he threw one pass, and it was intercepted. That was because Cam Newton was benched for the first play of that game. So you got to go back to October 10th. That means more than 2 years ago, that same season, 2016, when he started his only other game of that year. He actually tossed more than one ball, no touchdowns, 2 picks, and a loss to the Bucs. He's 4,300 this week. Not good. The salary is actually pretty good, but not good because he's just not good. Outside of LaShawn McCoy, you better pass on Anderson and all those Bills players, or you're in trouble.
All right, last block of the show. Last time we'll talk NFL football with these guys until 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yep.
What up, Reed? What up, Jeff? What up, Adam? Thanks for coming back, guys.
Well, they did not actually have a choice in that matter.
No.
We're rolling with some NFL over-under, a rookie edition. So quarterback Sam Darnold of the Jets, back-to-back 19 fantasy point performances, facing Minnesota this week. So does he go over or under 19 this week, Adam?
Under. I'm going to say that Darnold's going to struggle a little bit this week. Look, he put up decent numbers against 2 teams that are in shambles right now defensively, the Broncos and the Colts. The Colts couldn't stop me and Reed and anyone else you want to kind of throw out there right now at this point. So I don't trust Darnold. They don't trust Darnold. He's not throwing the ball a ton. I don't like the weapons he has at receiver. I don't like the matchup against Minnesota. I think he'll make a few mistakes. They'll try to control the clock and the ball and keep it away from Kirk Cousins with Crowell. So to me, I'll go under 19 points for Darnold this week.
He's $4,900. Reed, what do you think? Over or under 19?
Yeah, I think he goes over here, and I agree with Adam and all of his points that the matchup looks on paper that it's pretty tough. Minnesota's defense is stout, obviously, but we've seen them give up multiple touchdown games to Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, and Jared Goff. Look, Darnold isn't the latter of the two, but I think he's a little better than Josh Allen. That game, again, was a little bit of an anomaly where he rushed for 2 and he ran for 1. And he passed for 1. But you look at Darnold, he has to, right? He has to throw a multiple touchdown game. He's only averaging about 19 completions and about 225 yards. And so with that being said, you're going to have to be highly efficient. I think he does target Jermaine Kearse, and that's really where you attack this Minnesota defense in the slot. So 19 points, I think he gets over this.
Yeah, Jeff, Minnesota has had its struggles, defending the pass. So
indeed.
Do you think he's going to go over 19 this week?
I mean, I think if you're looking at this, you have to take the under. Sam Darnold's sort of ceiling looks like it's probably only about 20 or 21 points. And yeah, Minnesota's given up a few big games, but again, Reed alluded to it. It's the Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Sam Darnold is not in the same realm as those two players. So I think a more likely scenario is that, he's limited to 200 yards or just over, and maybe he gets 2 touchdowns and maybe he creeps up to 19. But I think if you're looking for a cheap quarterback, I'd rather go with CJ Beathard. And you can make the talent comparisons all you want. I don't really care. It's more the matchup. The Rams are higher pace. They're going to force more throwing, and have just given up more fantasy points to the quarterback position lately. So, I'm not really big on Darnold, is what I'm trying to say.
All right. No, I was able to pick up on that one.
Yeah, we got that.
Reed, I'm going to let you start with this next one. I know you're a huge fan of Saquon Barkley. He just put up more than 40 DK fantasy points against the Eagles. Now faces an Atlanta defense that surrendered 20 points to Peyton Barber. So over under 30 DK fantasy points for Barkley this week. I mean, he made a $1,500 jump, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous.
I'm going to say under, not because of the talent, but 30 is pretty hard to achieve. Like you mentioned it. He hit it once. I mean, his floor is about 26, and so he's really close. I think he gets really close to that. But to say that someone could go over 30 DK fantasy points, he's got to have a pretty good game. I get it. Atlanta's third best for opposing running backs, giving up about 34 DK fantasy points. And what you really like about Barkley is his safe floor in terms of receiving. He's getting 6 receptions for 60 yards on average. So you do like all of those things potentially to prove you over. But I do think this is a game for OBJ. We see Evan Ingram come back. They have a lot of weapons, and Atlanta is really deficient in covering the receivers, the tight ends, and everything in between. So I do think this offense gets spread around as opposed to just focusing on Saquon, which we saw when he had that big game. So under.
Yeah, Jeff, Thursday night was the first time he had cracked, it looks like 28 fantasy points, 29 fantasy points, went for 40 plus. Can he go over or under 30? Which one is he going to land at?
Oh, this is the easiest over in the history of overs. I mean, let's go through what the Atlanta Falcons have given up to opposing running backs.
Okay.
Jay 2 touchdowns. Gio Bernard, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 14 receptions, 102 yards. Alvin Kamara, 15 receptions, 124 yards. Eli Manning doesn't throw past the line of scrimmage anymore. Saquon Barkley is going to get a ton of volume in this matchup. I don't know, unless Atlanta just decides to put all 12, 13, 15 players on the field and just tackle him every time he moves or something. I just don't see how he doesn't have another monster game. That is terrible. Peyton Barber went off against him last week. It's an easy over.
Maybe the league will consider allowing the Atlanta defense to play with 12 or 13 players this week. Who knows?
Or 14 or 15.
Yeah, or 14 or 15. I mean, come on. That's not happening. Adam, is it going to happen? Over 30 DK fantasy points? No, it's not, because Jeff made it sound like it's going to be super de-duper easy.
No. Is it going to be a layup and the easiest question we have here tonight? Absolutely not. Do I think he'll have a big game against this terrible Falcons defense? Absolutely. But at the same time, with everything going on in that giant locker room where everyone is already throwing Eli Manning under the bus in terms of not throwing the ball deep, not getting Shepard involved, Ingram possibly back, I'm expecting, as Reed said, a big game from OBJ, Shepard, and Ingram. If not, Eli's going to continue to hear it in the locker room. He's going to be continued to be talked about day in and day out in New York radio here in New York. For me, Barkley's going to have a nice night. He's going to get 6 or 7 catches. He's probably going to go over 100 yards. But is he going to get 30 points? He hasn't gone over 30 yet. To me, they try to focus and get the attention back on OBJ. You heard what the owner said yesterday, that he wanted OBJ to make the statements on the field in terms of his play, not with the statements off the field. I just think it's too much right now in that locker room. I don't trust anything going on there, especially if you're going to tell me Barkley has to go over 30. So I'm with Reed on this one.
All right, guys, New England's Sony Michel has delivered at least 18 fantasy points in each of his last 3 games. Does he go over or under that mark against the Bears, Jeff?
I think he goes under. I mean, the Bears defense, I know they obviously had a bit of a misstep last week, but they've been good against opposing running backs this year. They've been really good, actually. I think everyone wants to talk about their pass rush, but they've really been forcing teams into the pass and then taking advantage of them with their pass rush by stopping the run. So I think the Patriots obviously have developed a very good running game with Sony Michel, but at the same time, I don't think Sony Michel is so good that he's going to overcome every single bad matchup on the slate. I look at this more as a Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon type game. That's who's been burning the Bears. I mean, they got burned by Brock Osweiler of all people with the pass last week. And I think that could happen again. I think Tom Brady could have a big night. I'll say under, I guess is the answer to that question.
All right, Reed, we got to move you along kind of quickly. We're running out of time. Over, under 18 fantasy points.
Yeah, I'm going to say under for Sony. I think if there's one person in that backfield that could do it, it's James White. Like Jeff alluded to, you attack these through the receiving game, and James White is that hybrid guy. Look, Chicago is coming back, too, from for a short week. Again, humid in Florida. I talked about it. That was an exhausting overtime game, so I'm going to say under.
Adam, over or under?
Same exact reason. I have my Patriots pom-poms out, but I'm going to go under, and I think exactly what Reed said. This has James White written all over it. Short pass out of the backfield, going deep to Josh Gordon. I don't think Michelle's going to have – I bet he finds the end zone, but to go over 19, I just don't see that this week. Or 18, whatever it was.
All right, guys, not enough time to talk about Carolina's DJ Moore. I know Reed is absolutely crushed. It's his favorite rookie wide receiver. Thinks you guys should all start him above Antonio Brown. I don't know, and all these other guys this week, but that's Reed's fault.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Good to have you back.
Great
because
to have you
hosting
back.
without
I love
just
you.
wasn't the same.
We love each other a lot. We miss each other all the
Yes,
time.
we do.
All right, this has been The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. We'll be fine. We'll be back tomorrow. Later.
Yeah, we'll survive.